the new year begins, our government officials are ready to get back to work. James Tipton, our district state representative, had visited Anderson County earlier this week to discuss the many topics, and we got a chance to be there.
We've got a couple of new dynamics this year. We've got a new governor, Governor Bevin. I haven't heard for sure. I'm sure we'll be getting a State of the Commonwealth address. On January 26th, the governor will be presenting a budget to the General Assembly to consider. Of course, this is the even year numbers. We do our 2-year budget. We do the budget every 2 years, and that will be the primary focus this year, is the budget. It's always about the money, and I know that one of the key issues with that budget is how we address the situation with our retirement systems and the shortfall, the unfunded liability in our retirement systems. That's a critical issue. I know that's an issue that is near and dear to a lot of people here in Anderson County. What they did is they changed their assumption on the rate of return from 7.5% to 6.75%. So basically what that means is, and truthfully, that's probably a more accurate assumption, but by doing that, that one calculation, it increased the potential liability by $920 million. Just that one little calculation. As a result, the fund's now funded at 17%, and I'm 100% in support of fully funding the ARC for the Kentucky retirement system going into this session. Our fiscal year 2016 budget, which is this year that ends June 30th, they're projecting our general fund revenue will be $10.3 billion. Next year, they're projecting that our general fund revenue will go up to $10.6 billion, a $300 million increase. And in the fiscal year 18, that number will go up to $10.868 billion. So almost a $600 million increase over the next 2 fiscal years. That's the good news. Bad news is that money's already spent based on the obligations that we have. Part of those obligations is the increased cost of that ARC for the Kentucky retirement system. Part of that is starting in fiscal year 17 and 18, we're going to have to start paying additional money from the state of Kentucky for our share of the expansion of the Medicaid program. That figure's probably over the next 2 fiscal years. Combined, we're looking at a little over $200 million. Starting in fiscal year 2021, that number is projected to increase to $320 million per year. And that gets us to the Kentucky teacher retirement system, which is also underfunded. The last actuarial on it had it funded at about 55%. I envision that we will have additional money allocated to the teacher retirement system. I know there are proposals to do that, and my preference would be to just pay the bill. Here's the danger with a bond, and it's snowing up a storm outside now, but that's all right. We're in here where it's nice and warm. Here's the danger with the bond, in my point. You put out that bond, what happens if the market does crash again? We still have the obligation to the retirees in the Kentucky teacher system. We also have the obligation to pay that bond. I'd rather see us pay our bills as we go along. Make some structure. If you compare the salaries of our state police to state police in surrounding states, it's pitiful. They're losing people. Our state police is understaffed by over 100 troopers right now. Part of that's pay. Part of it is they're losing troopers after they get them trained. They're going to local departments and getting more money. So I think that's an issue we have to look at. We put all these things together. The bottom line is there are going to have to be some hard decisions made. Because truthfully, in the current situation, there's not enough money to go around. So that's why I think it's important for us to look at tax reform. How can we structure our taxing system to make us grow as a state? How can we attract businesses? Not just businesses. We need good paying jobs in this state to employ people. And if we can do that, we're going to have productive citizens.
So what do you think the climate is in Frankfort for charter schools?
I was in a meeting a few weeks ago with our new Commissioner of Education, Stephen Pruitt. He brought up charter schools in that meeting. He came from Georgia where they have charter schools. He's worked with charter schools. His comment was, I'm not going to stand in the way of charter schools. The only thing I ask is when that discussion comes up, I like to be at the table discussing that. I know Governor Bevin had a meeting a week or two ago with some ministers, in the western part of Louisville. We talked about the poverty. There are a lot of achievement gaps from states. We've got students, and I've met Pastor Stevenson. I've talked to him, and they're concerned about their young people in their communities who are not getting that chance, they're not getting that opportunity, and they see this as an opportunity. What happened this year? I would say the odds of it passing this year are probably not that good because of the current political climate. Will we eventually have charter schools or some form of school choice? I truly believe we probably will eventually. And
Charter schools were really good for the people running them.
Mhm.
They were profitable, but not necessarily so good for those people who were in them.
Sure.
I mean, so those things, I mean, I'm not against them, but I'm just saying they need to be sure that,
And you're absolutely, those are things that need to be discussed.
Yeah.
One advantage we've got is there are 43 states in the District of Columbia that has some form of charter schools now. So we've got a lot of different models out there to look at, to see what's worked here, what hasn't worked here. And the key thing is when they do come, is to develop a system that's right for Kentucky.
Now, who's gonna pay that? We don't have enough money now to send the
Sure.
kids to fund our schools that we got. And y'all, you know, you're talking about starting a charter school or whatever, and who's gonna pay it? How you gonna pay it?
Well, of course, it's public money.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, it's public money. And if you look at, I was at a conference this summer, and they mentioned the true cost of what it costs to educate a child by the different states. And they got Kentucky like $10,500 per child. And the concept of charter schools or any school choice program is the money goes with the child. So the money that would go, basically that might go to a traditional public school, that money would follow the child. What Governor Bevin is saying now is consistent with what I heard him say throughout the campaign. What happened when the Governor Brashear initiated the executive order it did two things. They started Kentucky, the Connect program, which is a website. The Governor Bevin has committed to taking down the Connect website and having people go to the federal exchange. You may have heard a week or two ago, they're stopping all the advertising. Connect was spending about $7 million a year just on advertising. So those contracts have not been renewed. They're going to transition, I think, it's going to take a year because they're already in the enrollment sign-up point now. What you're probably more referring to is the expansion of the Medicaid from 100% of the poverty level to 138% of the poverty level. What that did is that increased the numbers on our Medicaid roll by about 400, 500,000, where we now have like 1 in 4 in the state eligible for Medicaid based on the expanding. What the Governor Bevin is proposing doing is filing for a waiver from that. And essentially, instead of that money coming through this system of Medicaid, Kentucky would get like a block grant, and Kentucky would design and develop our own system. That's right.
in the Medicaid system?
In the Medicaid system. That's right for Kentucky. Right now, the difference is the traditional Medicaid, federal paid 70, the state paid 30% of those costs. On the expanded Medicaid portion, that number, the federal paid 100%. Now, starting in fiscal year 17, their next fiscal year, that number goes down to 97.5%. It will eventually go down to 90%. And if you remember in 2021, I said it would cost us an additional $320 million a year just for that expanded portion.
I think people are really tired with the political innuendo that,
Sure.
I mean, that's like whether you're at national, federal, whether you're at state level, it's always a sob story. And you know, we as citizens, we struggle every day.
Absolutely.
We have to make our finances work, our budgets work, and it just makes us want to know, why can't our elected officials do the same thing?
I'm with you 100% there.
You know, we have problems at the home front in our homes that we have to take care of and make recommendations for. However, it seems at the state level or even further up, those adjustments can't be made and make recommendations for. It's always a sad story coming down, and I think that the citizens are tired of hearing it. I know I am.
I don't disagree with you a bit.
Amen.
And it is a challenge. I know a lot of people, there are some people would like to have term limits. You bring that up, and you know what they say when you bring up term limits? Well, you have them every 2 years, you can vote us out. But you all know how that works. Somebody gets in, it's very difficult sometimes for them to be removed from office. A lot of challenges. It's not going to be an easy session. But I'll leave you with this. I've always believed with great challenges come great opportunities. So my hope and goal is that we can embrace these challenges, work together, and move this state forward for the good of everybody.
Covering all your community news and events, this is Downtown Lawrenceburg, KY.com.